This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah. So today we will discuss about virtualization concepts. So as I said yesterday, so initial few days, 2 to 3 days time, we'll spend time on basics. So what is virtualization? What is networking? What is storage, backup, and Active Directory concepts? So these are the areas we will be focusing on initial 3 days time. So Azure course. So before I start off, I just want to check, are you all able to hear me and can you all see my screen? If anyone unable to see, kindly text in the chat. Okay, I hope everybody are able to see and hear. Great. Okay, so now we will actually mainly discuss about how our yeah how how our data center, uh, mainly IT has evolved over the years. So that is something we will discuss today. And then post that, we'll also do some lab. We'll try to create one virtual VM and etc. Okay. So if you look at probably 50 as again maybe 15 or 20 years 20 years before. So if you look at 20 years before, we all used to have what we all used to have servers. So typically physical hardware servers. So let's say I need one website or an application, anything you can consider anything. And for that, typically we have to purchase one hardware. So on top of the hardware, you will install your operating system. And then your application will be installed. So typically, either you will have one or two applications. Most of the times, you will have only one application. Okay, so because all companies prefer to have separate server for each application. So yeah, mostly you'll have only one application. So this hardware, let's say for this website, they need typically they need 8 GB of RAM, and for example,
I
4.
can't see the. Hello.
Yeah.
I can't see the screen, sir.
Okay. One sec. Can you see it now?
No.
How about others? Are you all able to see it?
Yes, we are able to see. I can see.
I'm able to see.
Is
Gautami,
able to
please. Yeah. Gautam, please rejoin. Drop off and rejoin again.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So yeah. So typically, let's say a application or a website require 4 GB and 5 CPUs, 4 CPUs, for example. So what these companies will do is these companies, first of all, they need to procure the hardware. So let's say when you purchase a laptop, you will also look at the laptop configuration, right? So you want to take 8 GB, or you want to take i5 processor, i5 processor, or i7 processor. So those details you'll definitely um, decide before you actually think about purchasing. Gautami, can you see it now?
Yeah, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So before you purchase, you actually will decide, right? So let's say based on your website requirement, you'll actually decide some based on the requirement. You'll think of some these are the details like the requirements, and then you will actually go and purchase the server hardware. So ideally, what these companies will do, So these companies will actually think about 2 to 3 years ahead of future. So at least 2 to 3 years. So they'll actually how their thinking process will be like, in case in next 2 to 3 years, if the demand actually grows, when I said yeah, for your website, if the demand actually grows, then yeah, so then they will actually they might want to again they would have to increase the server capacity, right? So to avoid that, just forecasting the future and 2 to 3 years down the line, they will actually go with some higher configuration. So higher configuration, it can be like 32 GB of RAM, and then some 16 CPUs, something like that. Okay, 16 or 8 CPUs. So they'll go with some high-end configuration because they are anticipating some growth in the they are anticipating some growth in the future, and they are anticipating some more demand in the future. So typically they'll purchase some bigger VMs, and they will actually set up like we have seen. So they will have the hardware set up, and on top of hardware they'll have the OS installed. Then they'll have an application. Okay, so the application, finally your website will be ready. So but over the years, every company has similar setup. Okay, over the year what happened is every company has similar setup, but over the year what happens is a lot of all the companies they started building these physical servers. And so I mean, typically what happened is out of all the physical server resources that they actually have, only 40%, less than 40%, less than 40% of CPU and memory, or you also can call it as RAM. Okay, so less than 40% of CPU memory is being utilized. So in a study, it has been identified that we call it a server crawling. So which is nothing but you have the 100% resources, but you will end up only utilizing very less minimal resources. So not this is not just for one server, for all the servers, because when if you have 10 applications, you have 10 servers in your data center. If you have for different reasons, because server will not only do this application hosting, but server will also do a lot of different things, right? You can have for printer, you can have a print server. For files and folders, you can have one file server. For domain controller, you'll have a domain controller. So there are a lot of different scenarios where you actually need server. So usually companies will have hundreds and thousands of servers typically. So it has been identified that all these servers that they have built, all these are physical servers that we are talking about right now. So all these servers actually are not even being utilized, 50 40%, not even, in fact less than 40% is being utilized out of the fullest capacity of these physical servers. So this is almost a very huge loss for the organizations, right? So they are actually, rest of the 60% is just being wasted. So for all the servers, so that is a huge problem. To solve this problem, the virtualization concept has come in picture. So to solve this problem, virtualization concept has come in picture. What is virtualization, and who invented this? So this who invented is that separate story. But what is virtualization is something we'll discuss. So ideally, if I'm not wrong, virtualization is invented by IBM. So they actually bought this concept, but right now they don't have any product. I mean, they are not famous for this product actually. But the company which has become very famous is VMware. So VMware is a company who actually developed a few products. So those products have become very famous for virtualization. So there are a few companies like Microsoft also have their own virtualization products, which I will talk in some time. So in virtualization, what they actually do is you'll have a physical hardware. For this, let's go to our slide. Okay. So you see traditional architecture. This is for physical server. Okay, this is for virtual architecture. So traditional architecture, you'll have a hardware. Then you'll have on top of it, you'll have operating system. It can be Linux, it can be Windows. Okay. and then you'll have your application. Application can be anything, any application. But so typically on one hardware, you're ending up having one application and on the operating system. So this is something very not fully utilized, because only when you use, you're not I mean, that has been identified in a study, so it's not even utilized 40% of fullest capacity. So then the due to with the virtualization concept, so you will have one virtualized on the physical hardware. You'll have one virtualization layer. This is called hypervisor. Okay, so we call this as a hypervisor. This hypervisor will, what does this do? This will actually mask your physical hardware resources. So in the sense, it will hide your physical hardware resources. It will separate your operating system. So you see operating system, it will separate your operating systems with your hardware. So it is a mask which actually hides the physical hardware resources and separate the operating system and the physical hardware. And then, so you're whenever, let's say you have this operating system you want to create. So now on same physical hardware, in previous case we have one application, but using this hypervisor, this virtualization concept, on the same physical hardware, you are able to create multiple servers, multiple applications. So it depends on capacity. So in the same example, let's say in previous case you have 32 GB, for example. Okay, so here same example, 32 GB. You have only one application running. Okay, here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, close to six applications running. So this number is based on the capacity. Let's say each VM, each, we call it as virtual machine. Okay, so this is a physical machine, this is a virtual machine. Why I'm calling it as a virtual machine? The reason I'm calling it as a virtual machine, because it is fully virtualized. So it's something not really physically. Do you really see 6 servers physically? No, right? You only see one physical server, but on top of one physical server you are able to create 6 applications virtually. So why I'm saying it as virtually, something you will realize when I actually show some demonstration on that. So we'll do that. People are saying lost my voice. Is that so? Do you guys hear me?
No. Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Sairam, how about you? Yeah, I mean, it seems like others are able to hear. So I'll continue. In case if you have problem, please drop off and rejoin and see if that helps. Okay. So where are we? So we are actually discussing about the virtualization, right? So with this virtualization concept, you are able to mask or hide your physical hardware, and then you're able to create multiple. So in this case, what happens is, let's say this VM, this application requires 4 GB of RAM. Okay, so this out of 32 GB, 4 GB will be allocated to this, and this application requires 8 GB, for example, and out of 32, 4 is already gone, so you will be left with 28, and then 8 GB will be allocated to this, and then this requires, let's say, 6 GB, so 6 will be allocated to this, and the other one requires 4 GB, fourth one, and fifth one, sixth one. So this 32 GB will be distributed across these applications. So by doing that, you are fully utilizing your 32 GB, and instead of, usually if you want to build 6 applications, you need to get six separate physical hardwares, right? So 6 separate physical hardwares, that is actually a very huge investment for you. But here with this virtualization concept, you are able to create multiple applications, multiple virtual machines on a single hardware by leveraging this hypervisor feature. So what does this do? This will actually hide the physical resources. When I say resources, I am talking about CPU, network, and RAM, and also storage. So these resources will be hide by this virtualization layer, and whenever you want to allocate some resources, this virtualization is responsible. It actually it gets from this it gets from this physical hardware, and it will attach to this disk. So this is the virtualization layer, is the one which actually takes care of everything. So let's say you have CPU, let's say some RAM, something like, for example, you have some RAM. Okay, so this virtualization layer, it is responsible to instead of directly attaching, directly providing to your actual. In this case, if you have same RAM, it will be directly attached to your operating system because there is no other, thing between this operating system and the hypervisor on the hardware. In this case, hypervisor is responsible to allocate these physical resources to these virtual machines. So hypervisor will actually allocate these resources. So this is something will manage everything, all the physical resources, how the physical resources must be allocated to these VMs will be in the control of hypervisor. So your VMs will think that, your VMs doesn't even know that they're having some hypervisor. There are another VM which is running on the same physical hardware. So this VM, this particular server will think that this is the only server sitting on this hardware, but because it doesn't know what's happening, all it needs is some CPU, some memory, some network, and some storage. So it gets whatever it requires, right? So it doesn't even know that there are other VMs which are running on the same hardware, because so these will be isolated VMs. So this VM cannot connect with this VM, this VM cannot connect with this VM. You can actually set that up. Any doubts on this?
No, sir.
Okay. Now yeah, okay. Now let's actually discuss about some of the companies who build and what are the products that they have actually built. Okay, so I talked about VMware, right? So VMware is a famous company who has built server virtualization. Server virtualization, we call it. So they actually came up with vSphere. So this product has become very famous. We also call it as, people who are working on VMware, they already have, I think some of you are already working on VMware, right? So they bought with they came up with vSphere, and they manage, in vSphere, they have hypervisor, the name is ESXi. Okay, so this is a hypervisor that they have they use this hypervisor host, and on a raw physical hardware they'll install this ESXi operating system hypervisor, and using that they will actually virtualize the hardware, and you'll be able to create multiple VMs, and you also will manage the. So this has become VMware has become very famous for server virtualization. So when I say, so yeah, server virtualization. So similarly we have another product from Microsoft also, which is called Hyper-V. So Microsoft product name is Hyper-V. So this product also works similar to your VMware vSphere. So Hyper-V also in Hyper-V, this is a role. This is a role inside a server. In fact, complete Azure is built upon on top of this Hyper-V only. So complete Azure is built on top of Hyper-V only. So which is why we will mainly focus on the Hyper-V. I will show you how you can enable Hyper-V, how actually it works and all. So this fully works. Hyper-V is something a similar virtualization concept like VMware vSphere. So this Hyper-V will help in isolating, like separating hardware to operating system, and can create multiple VMs on top of same hardware. So it doesn't matter whether you can create. So on single hardware you can have one. On single hardware you can have one Linux and one Windows also. It is possible. So that is something. Yeah, Microsoft came up with this product. Okay, and there are a few other players in the market. So you also have Citrix. So Citrix have their own Zen server. They call it as Citrix is famous for desktop virtualization. So they call it as Zen desktop. They have Zen servers also. They have Zen apps also. So they are more famous for this desktop virtualization and app virtualization mainly. Server virtualization, for server virtualization, we have the VMware, and we have VMware and Microsoft. They are the big players. Of course, there are a few other virtualization concepts also have come in picture now. So Oracle also have their own virtualization concept, because what happens is in 20 years before, to actually to fully utilize the physical hardwares, this virtualization is invented. So with the virtualization, every company, all the companies, they implemented this virtualization concepts within their data centers, and they actually leverage the existing physical hardwares full-fledgedly. Okay, so that's why we call it a data center. We call a data center as software-defined data center. Software-defined. So why I'm saying a software-defined data center? The reason being, in previous case, it is fully a physical thing, but you're actually bringing some virtualized concept based on certain softwares, installing certain softwares. These softwares actually or virtualizing your physical hardware. That's why we call it a software defined data center. So wherever on your traditional data center, wherever you implemented your virtualization concept, be it a VMware or Hyper-V or Citrix or any other virtualization player out there. So you can actually consider it as a software-defined data center, because your data center is now being defined by software. Okay, so that's why we call it as software-defined data center. So this is, again, now this is an old story. Okay, so whatever we have just learned, the virtualization concept, it's old story. Why I'm saying it's old story? Now you have a traditional data center, and you have a Microsoft Azure Cloud data center. So in traditional data center, you have, let's say, you have 10 servers. Okay, for example, not 10, for example, 6 servers. Okay, so these 6 servers you have to purchase and you have to maintain, you have to do all that stuff. So yesterday I did discuss why it is very economical and why it is efficient to actually move to cloud, or why all these companies are moving to cloud. Not just existing customers, but also new customers, new startup organizations also moving to cloud. I gave you the reason, because they get a cost benefit and so on. So now these, let's say, 5-6 servers you have got. So these servers are being purchased by you. You purchase these servers, you manage these servers. Let's say when you actually purchase these servers, what happens is, in this case, in the physical hardware case, what happens is, let's say you build multiple VMs. Here the advantage with the virtualization is, let's say you actually have set up one application, and maybe for some testing purpose or some proof of concepts or something like that, you actually set up this application, and after 2 months you decided that this application is no longer required. Okay, so when you decide the application is no longer required, either you have to fully format and fully you have to do a reinstallation of your operating system, or if the application uninstallation is easy, you will do that, but it is not full 100% cleanup, right? So if you want to remove this application, if you do the manual installation process, it is not full cleanup. So this process is not a proper, you don't have a proper procedure to clean this up. But on this case, if there is an application which same case, you want an application to be created for 2 months, and you create a virtual machine. Once after 2 months, if this application is no longer required, you can simply delete this VM. So that will delete completely. Okay, so again you can recreate another VM instead of this. So this is a very very cool thing in a virtualization because you create VM whenever required, and you delete also whenever you don't need this. So but in physical setup, it's not that easy. Creating also, it's a time taking process. Deletion also time taking process. So that is another very big advantage that you get with this. Now, yeah, so I said the virtualization is something. Now, previously, every organization, they used to maintain this virtualization concept themselves. So, this six physical servers they have got, and for these 6 physical servers, if they want to implement virtualization concept, what happens is, so you go to this company will go to a VMware. For example, they want to go to VMware. They'll go to VMware. What they'll say, VMware, they will give you vSphere, but they have to pay some licensing cost. Okay, so they need to pay a licensing cost. That the cost will be huge itself. So it won't be small. So cost will be huge, and also you have to pay AMC, annual maintenance cost. Let's say when you are using vSphere product, on your servers. And if you need any help, if there is any issue, you might want to reach out to VMware company for the help, right? So for that, they'll charge you AMC. This charge will be very huge. Okay. So this licensing cost as well as this AMC cost, these organizations have to bear. So that may actually, we are actually on single hardware. We are fully utilizing our physical hardwares with the help of virtualization concept. But again, we are spending some extra money on the licensing side. So but Microsoft, they offers, in Microsoft, how actually it looks like is they will actually give two server. Let's say for on each server, if you want to host two VMs, they'll give it to you for free. Only for two, they'll give it to you for free. So if you want to create more than two, then you have to get a licensing. So this is how Microsoft approaches. So if you want to create only two VMs on one physical hardware, they will give it to you for free. If you want to go beyond two, then you have to pay extra money. So this is the approach of Microsoft. So now again, you are implementing virtualization concept, that is okay, but you are spending some extra money again in this case. So sometimes if you use something like this gives you very nice experience for sure, but at the same time you'll also be paid uh, some money. So now with this same setup, now actually what all these cloud providers do, now we have cloud providers from Microsoft. Microsoft actually providing Azure. So when Microsoft providing Azure, Microsoft have their own virtualization concept, okay, which is Hyper-V. I told you. So they can implement the bunch of hundreds and lakhs of servers on the data center and physical server, because all these cloud technology cloud providers, they will use this virtualization concept. They don't give you one physical hardware for one customer. So it is fully a shared environment. So here in our case, we just simply purchase one 32 GB RAM VM server, something like that. But here the servers that they purchase will be in 1 TB RAM, 1 TB RAM. Sorry. So 1 TB RAM, 2 TB RAM, 3 TB RAM. So this 1 TB RAM will be distributed across at least 20 customers, 20 servers, 30 servers based on the requirement. So these servers will be very big. They will actually install the big servers and they will actually implement the virtualization concept. Here the advantage is the virtualization concept belongs to them itself. I mean, they have their own product. They don't have to get license from anybody else. So they will implement. That's why you see Amazon also has got their own virtualization concept, and other cloud, Google also, they will have their own. So they don't no. So if a cloud provider again have to pay some licensing cost to other company, then definitely it is not a viable thing for any cloud provider. So that's how they actually save some money here, and they will actually, when you actually spread, it's very simple. You go to a market, you want to take 1 kg of tomato, so you might probably, let's say it's coming for some 40 rupees per kg, and then you go to so for 1 kg you'll spend 40 rupees, and you tell them that I'll take 10 kgs, will you give me a discount? Definitely there are possibility they'll give you a discount for 30 rupees, right? Because you're actually taking 10 kgs at a time. So similarly, when you do it small, just with 6 hours, it won't be very effective in terms of cost savings, because you take only 6 hours, you'll spend some money for the 6 hours, very small servers you'll take, and you'll actually use that. But when you do same business for lakhs of servers, when you actually get lakhs of servers and distribute across all the customers, so that will be very economical thing, provided you manage it properly. Okay, so here these cloud business, they do the same. So they will actually get install lot of servers, and they will actually distribute across multiple customers. So then per customer charge will be very less, because lot of customers are taking the same product from this data center. When they set up one big data center, so you might think for 32 GB you'll have to spend for example 4 lakh rupees for the server. If you double it, you will realize it in the laptop also, you'll realize it. So if when you take a minimum configuration 8 GB, you'll spend some 50K, for example. And if you go to 16 GB, the price ideally it should be 50 into 2, right? It should be 1 lakh, but it won't be 1 lakh. You'll spend only 75K, something like that. And if you triple that, if you go to 32 GB, probably you'll spend 1 lakh. So ideally for 8 GB you're spending 50,000. For 32 GB, how much you have to spend? Usually you should spend 2 lakh, right? But you're only spending 1 lakh rupee and you're getting your product. So that's why when you take a very big servers, the money that you spend will be actually comparatively less. Okay, so with these calculations, it will be less. So that will be distributed across on this. If you have 20 customers are using this, 20 servers are there. Each server is from different customer. Okay, so then these 20 customers are actually sharing this cost. So do you think will it be effective or not? You guys can tell me. If you're not, if you did not understand, I'll give you one simple example. Okay, that you all understand. So, for example, for example, I myself, I want to purchase a home in Hyderabad. So for me to purchase a home in Hyderabad, uh, so in my area, for example, they are actually asking 80 lakh rupees, a independent house. Or let's leave about independent house. That is, let's talk about flat. For a flat, they'll actually charging 40 to 60 lakh rupees. Okay, okay. So I have 5 other friends who also want to purchase a flat. Same idea. Who also want to purchase a flat. Then we all five plus one, myself, 6 members. We all decided that why are we actually purchasing a flat outside? Why can't we build our own? So we all decided that if all 6 members spend, even if they spend 50 lakhs, how much will it be? It will be 3 crore, right? So then we decided that let's actually take let's look at some place and take some for example some 400 or 500, let's some 400 square yards land. Let's take some land. Let's purchase that land. For this land, for example, in our area, for land, let's say they are actually charging 50,000, 50K per square yard. So you are spending how much? You are spending 50K. For that, you are spending close to uh, how much you will spend? Close to 2 crore, right? So you'll spend 2 crore just to purchase the land. For example, provided we have this money already, usually we go with loan and all. Provided we have some money, I'm talking about. So you spend 2 crore rupees, for example, and you actually in 2 crore in 400 square yards. Typically, if you go with the four floors, 4 floors, each floor at least if you consider you have 2 or 3 flats. That depends on the size of this land, right? Let's say if you consider 3 flats, so three into 4, you get 12 flats. Okay, so each person will get 2 flats. Okay, each person will get, again, this construction charge, let's consider you're spending some extra 1 crore, for construction charge. Okay, so 1 crore, I'm actually, that is a huge, but let's say 1 crore. The total money that you're spending for approval, everything, you're spending 3 crore rupees to to purchase a land and to construct a building. But you will end up getting 12 flats. So each person will get 2 flats. So in previous case, you will spend 50, 60 lakhs, 50 lakhs per person, you get 1 flat. Here you get 50 lakhs, you're spending same 50 lakhs, but you get 2 flats. So off of it, right, you're only spending 25 lakhs rupees per flat. Why it's actually, why it has become very effective, why it has become cost effective, why are you saving some money here? See, when you do it alone, when let's say in the same example, if you look at the customer, each customers have their own data center, they are managing themselves. Okay, they purchase the hardware, they're managing themselves. It's definitely they'll spend some money. But when all these customers group together, and if they decide, let's say there are 10 customers, one, for example, let's look at Tata. Okay, Tata has a very lot of enterprises themselves. Okay, so let's say all these enterprises have their own data centers. Finally, Tata Group has decided, let's not have a distributed data center, let's have one single data center and manage everything at one place. Do you think will it be cost effective or not? Because first of all, the immediate cost benefit you will see is when you have distributed data centers, you will actually first of all get a real estate place for multiple data centers. You might have spent some money. So when you actually remove all of this and try to maintain one single real estate data center, then of course you are actually eliminating all other data center costs immediately. That is the immediate cost benefit that you get. then you can, for each data center, let's say you have security persons, 3 people for each data center, 24/7. If you want to have, you might have some security people. So now you're only, for 10 data centers, you'll have 30 members of security. Here in one data center, probably you can, because it's a big one, you can at least use 10 members, for example. Still, it is a saving. So anything, when you do it as a group, when you do it as a large, of course, that will become a cost effective, not just in one case, in multiple cases. So that's the same concept. Now it's being implemented by cloud providers. They are doing it very large scale with a lot of customers. That's why the more customers you bring into the cloud, the more benefit or more cost effective it will become. So what these cloud providers do, they are, because they get it for very less price, or comparatively, they are actually providing the same cost benefit to all the customers. That's why every customer is realizing that they see some cost benefit, they also see other benefit. That's why they are moving to cloud. So this is the main reason for people moving to cloud. And here, as I said earlier, anything you do with this large scale, you should actually do it very effectively. That's what I said. Anything, if all these things are grouped together, and if you don't do it effectively, there are some internal politics and etc., of course it won't work. So when you do it anything effectively in a large scale site, so you get a cost benefit. So that's the main idea of explaining this. Now we have learned I hope you understood the virtualization concept, and I hope why the virtualization has come in picture, and why people, after virtualization also, why people are moving to cloud, and what is the benefit that they get with the cloud, and how the cloud, inside a cloud also, I told you they will still utilize the virtualization concept. Typically each cloud provider have their own virtualization concepts, so they will use that, but that is something will not be explained or shown outside, because that will be internal thing. So they don't actually expose the backend underlying data center stuff. Okay, so this is about it. Now let us quickly go ahead and look at the Microsoft Hyper-V. So if you have a server, how do you enable Hyper-V? How do you create a VM? Let us look at that quickly. Any questions so far? All good? So let's say this is a server. Okay, on this server, you go to Hyper-V. So you see Hyper-V manager. Okay, leave about the underlying hardware. How do you install? How do you actually do all that? That is something really not much required for you guys. So let's look at so this is a how do you, first of all, how do you enable Hyper-V? So you go to this is a Windows machine. Even if you are using Windows 10 machine, on your Windows 10 machine also you can enable Hyper-V. Okay, that is possible. So how do you enable it? You go to control panel. I will use .cpl. That's a shortcut key, shortcut command, appwiz.cpl. So this will take you to the control panel. Here you have the option turn on Windows features, turn on and turn off. So this is where you will have Hyper-V feature. So you see Hyper-V feature on your local laptop. If you want to use this, you can actually, you have to do it this way. So this is how you enable Hyper-V for your desktop operating system like Windows 10, Windows 11 operating systems. But if you have some servers like Windows Server 2012, 2016, 2019, you do it differently. You will do it from Server Manager. I will show you that sometime. Okay, so some other time. So now, in my case, I've already enabled this. Once you enable it, it actually will restart your VM. So it will just restart your VM, and then once it is restarted, then you'll have your Hyper-V manager ready. So this is my very plain Hyper-V. I don't have anything as of now. So let us see how much memory and how much RAM I have got here. So how do you check that? You go to Task Manager. Right click. You have a Task Manager. You go to Performance. Here you see I've got 16 GB of RAM. Out of it, 4.2 GB is already utilized and 3% CPU. This is the usage. This is how it look like as of now. Now what we do? Let us create one VM. Okay, how do you create a VM? So again, this is just to give you an understanding. You typically don't have to. Yeah, small disclaimer here because people get confused. Okay. So a small disclaimer here is that this is only for your understanding. I told you already, initial 3 days is nothing to do with your Azure. Okay, first 3 days we have nothing to do with Azure. First 3 days you're only learning basics. We're only learning basics. So whatever concepts that you're learning here, you actually typically you don't have to do it as a Azure administrator later. Okay, so whatever we learn Azure is that starts from fourth day onwards, day 4. So whatever you're learning today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, these concepts only for your understanding only, but these concepts has nothing to do with Azure. Not, when I say nothing to do with Azure, nothing to do with your cloud administrator job. You will not install, you will not enable Hyper-V role, on your job. You will not manage this Hyper-V manager. This is not our motto. Our motto is just to learn how an Hyper-V will be enabled and how we can actually create VMs. This is only for our understanding. So this is a disclaimer for everybody. Okay. So now we have Hyper-V manager enabled. To create a VM, you right click on this. You have option, quick create option. You also can use this option. If you want to create a separate VM, you also can use this option. Let us see if I use quick create, what happens. So in quick create, they have actually bought these what do you say, these operating systems. Quick create, they bought automatically. So you can use any of these. Let us say if you want to use Windows, you can use. If you want to use Linux also, you can use. Let us create one Windows one first, and then we'll also create one Linux also if required. So but this usually takes a lot of time. So it has it requires at least 36 GB of free space. Of course we have 36 GB on my machine, so that should not be a problem. Okay, so I will go ahead and create. So once it is created, I will show you the additional properties and etc. But right now we'll simply go ahead and create it. So it has to download the 17 GB actually. So probably it takes some time, but let's see. I hope it will be quicker. Yeah, it is quicker itself. I think we cannot manage. Yeah, I think we can create another one also. Let us create one more also. Okay. So the other one that we want, first of all, let us check how much free space I've got. If I don't have free space, then we will be, oh, I don't have free space, enough free space. What we should do, okay, I have to change this. One sec. Let me see if I can attach one disk to it. Hmm. So I go to disk management. I've attached one extra disk, so I will format this and no, there is one disk already, so we can also use this one also if required. But I am using this disk for now. So I did created it. I added one extra disk for us. So I'll go ahead and format this. Quick format, finish. Okay. So now I will change this location to E drive. Okay. So here I will say Hyper-V VMs. Don't worry in case if you feel that I am going fast. As I said, these are nothing to do with your Azure concepts. One second. Okay. It has to be created first. Okay. Let's wait for this to complete. And those who want to practice in your lab, you don't have to, download this 17 GB. Okay, what you can do, you can also create it in an alternate way. So I'll tell you how you can create. Usually ISO image, you can try with the Ubuntu. In our case, we did with the, what do you say, with Windows, right? It actually, usually Windows requires a lot of, what do you say, space. Okay, but if you do it with Ubuntu, it doesn't actually require that huge space. So we'll see how much actually does Ubuntu actually takes. Install from OS. Okay, if I choose this and create this, so it just need 1.5, 2 GB. That's it. So I suggest you to try it out with Ubuntu because it's lightweight. Because most of you, if you don't have a good bandwidth, internet bandwidth. So this is a Windows one, this is a Ubuntu one. I'm doing both. So it says there is no enough space on the disk. That's an anticipated thing. So we anticipated that, right? So I think this one will be created. It is just a 2 GB one, right? I think I need to change this installation source path to this. It's like, where is this? Copy. Let's paste it here. Paste. Now let's choose this. Open it. Now we have changed the installation path, but I'm not sure. Again, yeah, it is directly creating. Fine. Come on. Yeah. Usually it takes much more time than this, but because we are able to see that quick create option, with that, it's getting faster. Otherwise, it takes some more time. So I think we should have this machine ready, Ubuntu one ready before the Windows one. Yeah. So it says the machine is created. If you let us actually, we can connect it as well as. First of all, you have to start the VM. So this is the Ubuntu VM that you see. Before we start, let's go and look at the settings. Okay. So in settings, it is actually created, and you see the memory it is allocated only 2048, which is 2 GB of memory is allocated to this. So right now, what I want to show you here is in Task Manager, you see 4.6 GB is utilized out of 16 GB. So now, right now, this is allocated with 2 GB. What I will do side by side. Come on, this is the yeah. Let us leave this Windows one. Windows 11. We are already in Windows 11 only. Let's leave that aside. So now let us look at the. So this is a 14.6 GB is utilized out of 4.55 GB is utilized out of 16 GB. Now for my VM is allocated with 2 GB, which is a Linux based one. Let's say I want to allocate more than that. For example, 4096 4 GB I want to allocate. Okay, so I will say apply. And what I'm doing, I'm starting this VM, and you can observe here what happens. Do you see it is increasing? 4.1 has become 8.3. So which means 8 GB of that extra, the 4 GB that allocated is actually taken from here, physical hardware. So how much I'm left with? I'm left with approximately 7 GB, 7 and change, right? So I can, if I want to create another VM, I can create another VM and I can utilize the same. So we are on Windows 11 VM, and we enabled Hyper-V, and we created a Linux VM on top of it. So those who want to practice Linux, so this is the best way to practice. So this is how you install operating system also. Most of you may not get this, you know, chance to install usually, but let's see. So I'm giving user and password for this. Similarly, you can do it for Windows also. In our case, we couldn't do it uh, because of lack of space. Of course, we can do it now, but it takes some time. So Yeah, it's almost done. Okay, so it's installed fully. Yep. So we are on Linux VM. This is our Windows one. Inside a Windows, you have a Linux VM. So like this, you can create multiple VMs, provided you have enough memory on your. If you are doing on laptop, on your laptop. So like this, the cloud providers, especially Microsoft, in the background they create huge machines, big machines, which is like 256 GB, 512 GB of RAM or 1 TB of RAM, and they create multiple VMs. And of course you won't connect to those VMs like this, but they will give you a separate GUI. So from Azure portal itself, you'll be able to manage those VMs, and you can. So they have created that UI for us for the simplicity. So that is how this typically works. Okay, so this is a virtualization concept. I hope you understood. If you want to practice also, you can try to do the same thing. And let's say once you practice it, if you don't, this is a Ubuntu VM. Now I did, and if you feel you don't need this, so simply go ahead and delete this. So right now it is we are utilizing 9.1 GB. If I simply turn it off first of all, then delete, you see delete option. Okay, if I just simply say delete, it deletes and my memory is fully released. I only have only 4.2 GB is utilized. So this is how you do practice, and then once it is done, you get rid of it, delete it. If you stay Hyper-V Manager, you can just enable it. It doesn't cause you any impact, cause you any problem. But the VM, once you're done, you can if you no longer required, you can simply delete it. So it is that easy. Okay, with virtualization. But do you really think a physical server you can just remove it just like that? It's not possible. So you have to. There are a lot of procedures that you have to follow. Okay, so that's about virtualization, guys. Any doubts? Any questions before we wind up? Okay, so I'll take that as no. So let's catch up tomorrow same time. Tomorrow I'll talk about networking concepts, IP addressing and all. So don't miss out to tomorrow's class. Okay. Thank you all. Take care. Stay safe. See you all tomorrow same time.
Yeah, thank you.